Hello, guys, and welcome back to the NW Sportscast blockbuster trade. The Seattle Mariners trade for a Randy Arozarena. Levi, this is a huge trade. He hit just 211 this year, but we all know what he can be. We gave up, some pretty marquee prospects like Aiden Smith is the headliner, but nothing too fancy for the Mariners. No top 10 players in the Mariners farm system. How do you feel about this trade?
Drew, I love the trade. I mean, Randy Arozarena, is he a world changer? No, he's not, but he's a good player. He's a good player who has been having a really good month of July. And you're right, we didn't have to give up one of our top 10 prospects, Aiden Smith, Brody Hopkins. They're both probably solid prospects. They both could amount to something, but Randy Arozarena is way more valuable to the Mariners right now than Brody Hopkins and Aiden Smith
Yeah.
might ever be. So yes, I'm making this trade 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, I'm making this trade 1,000 times out of 1,000. I mean, this guy
Yeah.
is the type of player, Levi, where he turns into the best player in all of baseball for a couple week stretch. And it seems to happen every year. And a lot of times, we've seen it happen a couple times in the postseason. So obviously, priority number one for the Mariners is
Yeah.
making the postseason, Levi. But if they do somehow find a way, Arozarena always is able to produce. But let's quickly go over his stats this year. We'll also touch on Aiden Smith, obviously, and Hopkins and what they mean leaving the system. But this year for the Tampa Bay Rays, Randy Arozarena, he has just 15 home runs, which, that's some pretty good power. But it's the other things that have some people questioning how valuable he really is. 213 batting average, an on base percentage hovering just over 300 at 319, slugging just shy of 400 at 398, OPS of 717, and an OPS plus of 106. And his WAR is just 0.8 wins. So, what do you think about that? Like, obviously, he's a
Yeah.
super good player, but there definitely is some things that we're not getting. We're not getting an elite bat.
Yeah, Drew, I will say this. He part of the war is that he's defensively limited. Um
Very.
very defensively limited a little bit. I wouldn't say completely as bad as Haniger, but he maybe closer to the way that Winker was a little bit defensively limited, but he can still play left field every day. It's not going to be as atrocious as a Mitch Haniger in the outfield. But yeah, I mean, offensively, look, 106 OPS plus. This is the worst season offensively of his career, and he's still above 100. Is it possible that he does what seemingly every guy does when they come to the Mariners and gets like 20% worse? It is possible. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to freak out and jump for joy, but he is a good player. We haven't seen a full season of Randy Arozarena being a below average baseball player. He's been a consistently about a 3 WAR guy. That's good. He's been consistently OPS plus around 115 to 125. That's good. And even with that defensive limitations, he's managed to be an everyday starting outfielder with a plus bat. And so the hope is that you put him in a lineup with Julio. Maybe Julio and Arozarena can both actually improve because of that. If you take two, underperforming star players, put them together, maybe that will mesh something together. So yeah, I'm happy with the trade. And honestly, it's kind of rare that we both are 100% sold on a move that the
Yeah.
Mariners
Yeah.
make. I don't think we've had this agreement at all in the offseason. We both liked the Polanco trade, but I think we both had even a few more reservations about that. Right now, I think we're both very much 100% locked in. This is a good move.
This is a great move. And it is a lot because of what we gave up, but it's also because of the guy we got. And I
Yeah.
really don't want to undersell a Arozarena. This guy is a quality baseball
No.
player. I was at the gym and I saw who we got. And it didn't show who we gave up yet because I saw it, right after it happened. And even then, I was like, that's huge. Not only because of who Randy Arozarena is, but also because of the current state of the Seattle Mariners. You got to think this team right now is on a huge skid. This is a moment where the Mariners really have to look at themselves in the mirror. We got guys like Marlowe, Vossler, Rivas, all of these
Yep.
guys in the lineup that just aren't getting the job done, and they aren't meant to get the job done. They're AAA baseball players. But inserting a guy like Randy Arozarena not only is super good because he's a great player, but it gives a spark to this clubhouse.
Absolutely. It gives a spark to the clubhouse. It gives you a guy who is going to be playing every day in the outfield. It does raise a question to me, which is what is Mitch Haniger's future with this team? Because
Not long.
at this point, I don't see how you can justify keeping him with Arozarena now. Presumably, Arozarena is your everyday left fielder, and now
Well,
Luke Raley is the guy who's going to play right field most of the time with Canzone Robles as well. I don't see how Haniger fits in the picture. Are you, Drew? Do you think they just eat the money on Mitch?
yeah, we're paying a lot of money for Mitch Haniger, who isn't producing. I will say Mitch Haniger is going to be in this lineup for as long as Julio's out of this lineup and
Yeah,
on the IL. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I think Mitch Haniger stays on this lineup kind of from some fortune from his point of view in the fact that Julio Rodriguez right now is hurt. And I don't really see another avenue where the Mariners can justify cutting Mitch Haniger right now because Marlowe isn't going to give you anything more than what Mitch Haniger is giving you, guys like that. However, going back to the Arozarena thing, I do think that you mentioned Mitch Haniger and how he's not great defensively and how Arozarena isn't great defensively. When looking at Baseball Savant, you are completely right, Levi. Fielding run value -5, 10th percentile. His range is 16th percentile. Arm value is negative or is ninth percentile, -2. His arm strength just 32%, which is really weird because his sprint speed when running the bases is 71st percentile. So he can steal a bag and he's great at running the bases, but it seems like there are maybe some fielding things with the Arozarena that you could argue kind of come down to some work ethic type things. Is he always ready in the outfield? Not quite sure, but that definitely is some downside.
it's downside, but it's not enough downside to warrant, I think, any concerns right now. I mean, he's better than whatever guys that you currently are throwing out there. He's a
For
good
sure.
baseball player. Um, and I think this signals a couple of things. It signals number one, we're not backing down. We're not going to throw
True.
in the towel, which we could have done. I mean, there's a lot of fans this week who are saying, don't make these trades, save the prospects, throw in the towel. The
Yeah.
Mariners are cooked. And I was vehemently disagreeing with that. So I'm very happy that we're making moves. Number two, Drew, it signifies to me Jerry DePoto, he knows what's at stake. He knows that his job, potentially Scott Service's job, potentially Justin Hollander's job, those are all on the line right now. And that is dependent on this team making the playoffs, I think, or at least, yeah, I would say making the playoffs. And he knows that. And he
Yeah.
went out and he got the job done. He got the trade. He made the trade. And I think there might be more trades coming down the pipe. I really do. It is a little bit surprising to see the Rays only half a game behind us. They are selling, we are buying. That just goes to show how different teams, even with a similar record, can be at such different spots as far as for us, we have to win this year. We have the best pitching rotation in baseball. We cannot waste that. For the Rays, they're okay to sell. It's very different, but yeah, Drew, I'm really happy about this. Do you think there's going to be more trades coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I do. And something very interesting you mentioned, Levi, was the fact that there are some selfish attitudes behind, Justin Hollander, Jerry DePoto, and Scott Service all selfishly wanting to keep their job. And because they want to selfishly keep their job, I think that's going to benefit the 2024 Seattle Mariners. Will that
Absolutely.
benefit the 2028, 2029 Seattle Mariners? Probably not. But right now, the Mariners need to win because their job is right now, not in 2020, 2028 and 2029. So I do think there's going to be more trades down the pipe. I don't think this is the end of the Mariners trade deadline, like in the fact that I don't think there's only going to be a couple more small moves, and this is the marquee move. Would not be surprised if there's another huge move down the line for the Seattle Mariners, and we look back and the Randy Arozarena trade is maybe the supplementary move. Still looking at guys like Vlad, like
Yeah.
Brent Rooker, like a marquee bat. Because look, at the end of the day, Arozarena still is hitting 211. And I know that's not what Mariner fans want to hear right now, but he still is a 0.8 WAR player. And those numbers aren't just lying. There's obviously great stuff to see, and Arozarena is better than what we have, but this isn't going to instantly fix this offense by any means. So I do think the Mariners need to continue making moves, and they need to continue wheeling and dealing for this team, because you're right. We have the best pitching staff in all of baseball, and it's an absolute shame. I've been making a video where I've been, really deep diving this Mariners offense. And this is the only team in the 21st century, Levi, where the batting average is last, 30th in the MLB, and the batting average allowed is first. And so the Mariners pitching is allowing a 215 average.
Yeah.
The Mariners are hitting just 216. So absolutely crazy stuff. This might be the most imbalanced team in the history of baseball.
And I guess when you put it that way, Drew, it makes sense that we are just kind of hovering around 500 right now. We're 2 above 500. And I guess that makes sense, because if you're the worst at batting and the best at pitching, put it together, you're an average team.
And you're average defensively. There you go.
But we want to be better than an average team. And I still think 87, 88 wins probably wins you the West. Randy Arozarena puts us one step closer to that. So expect probably Cade Marlowe to be sent down. Expect to see Randy Arozarena in the lineup. And you did say, yes, he's hitting 211. Yes, he just has that 0.8 WAR. But if you look at June and July, he has a 890 OPS. Since June 1st, he's at 890 OPS. The first 2 months of the season, he was doing the exact same thing as the Mariners lineup. He was just completely awful the first 2 months of the season. But unlike the Mariners lineup, Randy turned it around. He turned it around in June. He has been one of the hottest players in baseball for the past 2 full months. So I do think that he comes in and he immediately can impact this offense. Like you said, if he is the marquee move, I think we fell just a little bit short. But if he is the marquee move and you make 2 more supplemental moves on the side, I think I'm still in a lot better mindset than I was an hour ago.
For sure. And this is definitely better than trading away Paul Sewald. Better than trading away Kendall Graveman. I mean, this is a great start for the Mariners. Levi, one thing I really want to mention, because this is the most, shocking and jaw-gripping thing that I've seen on Baseball Savant. Big Baseball Savant guy, Levi, obviously. You know that about me. Before we move into the last segment of this video, we will quickly talk about Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins. Levi, Randy Arozarena's run pitch value, and I mentioned this a lot in my Julio Rodriguez video. I don't know if you had an opportunity to listen to that one, but Julio had, the big thing was he could not hit the fastball in 2024 compared to 2023. Very similar things happening this year with Arozarena. Similar also happening with Mitch Garver also. But in 2023, Arozarena, the four-seam fastball, run value of 17. That is top 5% in the entire MLB. He was absolutely hitting that pitch. That was his money pitch. He was a negative 11 slider value, 4 sinker, 8 change, negative 5 curve. But it was the 17 run value four-seam fastball. This year, that is all the way down to 1. So he's just average at hitting the baseball four-seam fastball. Does that bring up some concern, Levi? He's hitting just 198 off of the four-seam fastball compared to last year. He was hitting 254. His slugging is down 100 points. His K rate is up 6 points from the fastball. What do you think is happening with that? And do you think he's going to be able to change that in the Mariner jersey?
Obviously those numbers are concerning, but like I said, I think he's already turning those things around. I think he's been turning those things around since early June, and I think he will continue to. I really do. And look, the Mariners, they were smart. They bought low on a guy who, by the way, we haven't even mentioned this. Randy is not a free agent. He still has 2025 and 2026. Now, granted, he's going to be expensive. We're going to be paying $20 million a year for the next 2 years for him. But
arbitration.
But any team besides the lowest payroll teams like the A's and the Marlins can afford to do that for a player of his caliber, and the Mariners should be willing to take that cost on. So we're going to have him for 2 more years. We bought low on a really talented player who had a couple of awful months, but is currently in the midst of the turnaround. I love it.
All right, Levi, let's move into the final part of the video. Let's talk about Aiden Smith. First of all, the marquee prospect that the Rays are getting, 12th overall prospect for the Mariners. So Seattle avoids giving away that top 10 prospect. But Aiden Smith, although not being a top 10 prospect, nothing to bat an eye at. This is a good player. He's young. He's just 20 years old, was drafted last year. Outfielder, throws with his right hand. He's a good player. In 2024 with the Modesto Nuts so far, he's hitting 284 with an 872 OPS. Obviously, that's in Modesto, so there's obviously an asterisk there for sure. This is a great baseball player, and I know a lot of Mariners fans who kind of haven't heard of Aiden Smith. They've only heard of the Harry Fords and the Emerson and the Ty Pete and all of them. But this is a great player, and I definitely think that the Rays aren't getting nothing with this trade.
No, you're right. I mean, Aiden Smith could amount to something. I think he's gotten some comparisons to a younger version of Dominic Canzone, but what that also means is that Aiden Smith, we don't know if he's going to be something. I mean, he was a fourth round draft pick. Fourth round draft picks have about a 20% hit rate. Like maybe half the fourth rounders end up making it to the majors, and about a fifth of them stick around. So Aiden Smith, he's only 20. He's still in single A. We don't know if he's going to amount to anything. He could, but the chances that he does, in my opinion, are lower than the chances that that Randy ends up going off as a Mariner. So yeah, the Rays. I mean, we might look back in 6 years and say, Aiden Smith turned into something pretty good for the Rays. And there's also a chance that he doesn't amount to anything at all. He's in that range where he's a similar level range to Tyler Locklear and Jonathan Clase. If that tells you anything, that's kind of the group of players that he is ranked with. So he's not bad. He definitely
Yeah.
will have a chance at making the major leagues. But just the way that Clase and Locklear are not sure things, even Canzone he's been good this year, but I wouldn't say he's a sure thing as far as the future goes. So he's kind of in that category as a prospect, and that's fine. That's a good player that you want to trade. You want to trade players from that level of prospect caliber because you're not taking a huge risk. You're taking the risk of most likely. I'll tell you what. Most likely, he's going to probably be a 4A outfielder who plays some in the bigs, plays really good in AAA, and maybe he has a couple good years. Maybe he doesn't, but I'm not really batting an eye over it.
Yeah, and you do say most likely because although his comp is a Dominican zone, obviously more upside. He's only 20, so it makes sense that he could potentially turn into something greater. But I do understand where the Rays are coming from. Look, they see that Randy's going into arbitration the next couple of years. He's going to cost, 18-20 million dollars. The Rays aren't a super rich team in the first place. They've kind of
No.
made their money off of doing trades exactly like this,
Yep.
finding diamonds in the rough like Aiden Smith, for example. But also the Mariners, this is the type of guy you want to trade. That 18 to 8 type prospect right there in your system who could be a good player, but not the elite player that everyone's trying to covet. Now let's go to Brody Hopkins. He's the second player, along with someone that we won't, that a player that is not named so far, but Brody Hopkins, 2.9 ERA in Modesto. He's started 18 games. He's pitched 83 and 2/3 inning, giving up 62 hits, has a whip of 1.22, 95 strikeouts. So his K through 9 is above 9. He's a solid player as well, Levi.
Yeah. Solid player, sixth round draft pick. Again, I think Brody Hopkins, he probably has a future as a big league reliever. But again, the value right now, it's on Arozarena. I mean, people are calling this a fleece. What I hate to throw around fleece when you haven't even seen the guy play for you in your uniform yet, but I think there's a better chance than not that it does turn into a winning trade for the Mariners. Yeah, Brody Hopkins, good player, good player. But single A stats, I mean, it's hard to read much into single A
True.
stats. It
Yeah.
really is.
Lots of times, Levi, you can judge a trade 3 or 4 years down the line, but really we've talked a lot about on this show. It's a lot about how the process
Yeah.
from a GM point of view, it's all about the process. And I love the process in which Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander made this trade. They see a team that's struggling, they see a division that is super winnable, and they say, who is the best outfielder we can get by not giving up a top 10 prospect who can turn into one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball on the flip of a dime? That's Randy Arozarena.
Yeah. And suddenly this makes your team more competitive this year. It makes your team more competitive next year. It makes your team more competitive in 2026 as well. Randy Arozarena paired with Julio, paired with Cal, paired with JP. If JP bounces back, all of a sudden that is a 1 through 4 that actually looks okay. It is
Yeah.
obviously contingent of JP and Julio bouncing back, but Randy, Cal, Julio theoretically is a pretty solid top three. JP is your number 4. He would be leading off, and then it would be the other 3 right after him. You can still
Harper.
go out and get that last bat, though. Harry Ford still available. I still think we should trade him. Cole Young still, we held on to him. We held on to Ty Pete. We held on to Fellman. All the potential big time trade chips are still in our system. So if we wanted to go get a Vlad, I know the Blue Jays say they're not going to trade him. If we wanted to go get a Vlad or a Luis Robert or, a Brent Rooker, much less attractive to me than the other 2, but let's say we do, we still can. And I still think we should.
Yeah, we traded, we slid in a few poker chips, but we kept the big guys still able to be traded for. And look, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Prospects, a lot of the times, their value to the team is not what they do 3 or 4 years down the line, but their value is the trade assets.
Exactly.
That is part of what a prospects do. It's not always to develop. It's a lot of times to use it as a bargaining chip. Today, perfect example. I think it was a masterclass from Justin Hollander and Jerry DePoto. I think that'll do it, Levi. This is the NW Sportscast. You got anything else for us to say?
That's all for me, Drew.
All right, it's the NW Sportscast. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Randy Arozarena, your official first trade for the Seattle Mariners, and it's a big one. Giving up, the final one was Randy Arozarena, Aiden Smith going over there, and Brody Hopkins to the Rays. Check out my Julio Rodriguez video. I edited that about a week ago. If you want to know why Julio Rodriguez has been struggling so much, go check out that video. I think Levi was in the process of making a video about how the Mariners never trade, which is kind of ironic.
That's part of the video, but yeah, there's a video for me. It'll be posted tonight, and it's still somewhat relevant, but basically my wish came true. I said at the end of the video, Jerry, please do something, make a trade. We need to fix this team, and he did. So, my video, if it had been posted, maybe DePoto would have watched it and been like, "Yep, I'm gonna do it." But either way, I'm glad that he did. Very glad that he did.
All right, and that will do it. This is NW Sportscast. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, Levi.
Go Mariners.
All right, see you guys.